Hello, welcome to J Lowe Artist YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me on this artistic adventure. Today we'll be working with charcoal. Thanks for being here today, by the way. Appreciate you coming along and drawing with me. It's always fun to draw with other people. And we're going to start out with our white charcoal. First thing we need to do is simple shapes. We have to define our area, where everything's going. And since his little paw on the bottom is kind of cut off a little bit, we're going to just assume it's in there, probably in the water somewhere. So down towards the bottom, I'm just going to throw that little paw in there, just do kind of a rounded area. And his head then should be somewhere in the middle. So I'm just going to do this big circle and say that's where his head goes. Leave yourself enough room that you can have his shoulder in there, that other paw, right in the middle. It's going to come down in the, maybe this paw was over too far. We'll throw that. Or maybe I need to move his head over a little bit. Here's his other paw, kind of this oval shape. Draw very large. Some of you still need to increase the size that you're drawing. So once you got that in there, you say to yourself, okay, his head is not straight up and down. It's like this. It's slightly diagonal. And if you wanted to, you could make a little line there and say, well, the tip of his nose, is there, and those little creases are about there. You make yourself a line to guide you. But the eyes are going to be right about the center of that circle. So if I come to the center of my circle, I just kind of make a little edge or something and say, well, this is about where the eyes go. You can make a little line if you want. I'm just going to put in this little shape for the eye. There's one there. One about right there. If that's too big or too small, you can change it. And about right down towards the bottom of our circle, not quite on the bottom, but there's a nose there, and it's almost in the middle of the eyes. So if I come straight down off the eye here, make a little line there, I can say, well, there's a nose somewhere down in that area. And it's just going to be a little triangle shape. There's his nose. And his little jowls, about the end of the eye, the edge of the eye, the outside of the eye, if you come straight down off of that, make a little curve there. There's his little jowls, and it kind of curves up into his face there. Little chin. Just a little oval. If you come straight up off the eye and go like from the middle of the nose through the outside of the eye and up, that's about where that ear starts. So there's kind of a little edge right there. You don't need to draw the line. I'm just kind of showing you where it's at. And the other one's about the same too. If you go from the middle of the nose, inside of the eye, that's about where that tip of that ear is. You can throw that one in there. This one over here. Just a nice little rounded shape. This one's a little more pointy. Then his back side goes just over that. It's very hairy. Hopefully we've given ourselves enough room up there at the top for that. Almost touching that edge. Remember, good composition. Your subject matter comes close to or touches 3 of the 4 sides. Just rule of thumb there. Now, there's little shapes and stuff in here that are wrong. Like his first paw was wrong. You can erase it if you want to, but it's not that big of a deal because we're going to use this charcoal over there anyway. If you think about the stripes around a tiger like a target, I'm going to start for the outside of the eye and just kind of come in and just do this little circle that kind of comes around here like this. And if you look at his stripes, they kind of follow that edge all the way around. Then there's another one just outside of that. So if you think like a archery target, you know, the big circle, those are just guidelines that are just going to help us get those stripes about where they go. And if you wanted to, you can say, well, I see all this water that's up in there. You can just start defining it by these little kind of ringlet kind of shapes. Because it's just light and dark. All your drawing is light and dark anyway. A lot of that water is very gray, and it's going to be done for us. So you can kind of decide where that goes. And it's not important if they're exactly in the right place. What's important is the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears. Those are in the right place. Everything else can be smudged and fudged just a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten up any edges, get rid of any lines that bother me. Some of these guidelines I threw in there, I don't like those in there. Although it's not that important if you get rid of them or not, because eventually we're going to smear all this stuff and it's going to kind of go bye-bye anyway. But you don't want to be confused either. So if some lines are confusing you, you want to get rid of those. And remember that the dark can cover up the white, where the white doesn't cover up the dark as easily. We're going to start with the white. We'll probably end with the white too, and have the black in between. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start in some of the lightest areas. Around the eye is very light. Over the chin, just under the chin and the neck, and just little areas here and there. I can use my white to kind of help me out. So I'm just going to start out. Here's a little bit of light over the eye. Kind of comes down in around the eye. And you're just doing shapes of light. Just look at the light shapes. If you see a little bit of light in there, do the light and just leave out the dark. Just little bit of light under his eye. I really like that little bit of light that's just on the bottom side of his eye. Very expressive. And then the highlight right there. Boop. Look how all of a sudden that eye starts to come through, starts to pop. And even though I haven't drawn any black in there, you start looking at it, you start seeing it. Because your eye will make those connections. If we were drawing on black paper, this would be super strong contrast, which we will do later on, especially when we get into chiaroscuro. I can see my little guideline here. I know there's going to be a stripe under here somewhere. Just find that shape of light and draw that little light shape in. It doesn't have to be perfect, because this is just helping us. It's just becoming a guide for us. It's kind of like the Pirate's Code, you know, it's a guideline. It can be changed a little bit. This negative drawing is really a lot of fun. Even his whiskers, if you wanted to put his whiskers in right now, you could. And that way, when we're drawing the black parts, we can just leave out that little area. If you wanted to throw some of those in, you're more than welcome to. We might have to go back over them, especially once we get the black in there. But at least it tells us where they go. On this other side, there's very little white. I mean, you see the white, but it's very light gray, and we've already got that light gray. We can throw in more later too, but right now that's a good start. So here goes. Here's my black. I'm just going to get that little pupil. Boom. Wow. And the more I add, the better it's going to be. And we're going to take our cotton swab and blend a little bit of that into that gray to get a little bit darker. But right now, that's really all we need. You just want to pick out the darkest areas. And even if it's a little gray, we can blend that with the cotton swab. And like a lot of things, it's not important if those stripes are exact. Try to get them close. Before I get going too far, I just want to show you what's going to happen with these, with our blending. And as you do these little stripes, make sure that your little strokes are going in the direction that the hair flows, because we're going to use that to our advantage to get it to look like fur, soft, fuzzy fur. And don't be afraid to leave little areas out. I'm just doing little zigzags. I mean, I'm not trying to be too exact. Just little zigzags. Try not to make them all the same length, though. Have some small, some thicker, thinner. When I come to a whisker, I'm going to skip it. So like here, just got to skip that little whisker. Just pick out the shapes of dark and light. Put those, right now, put the dark ones in. And tigers are fairly easy, just little strokes of dark and light. High contrast, a lot of fun. I haven't drawn a line around his little jowls, just little shapes of darkness, and that picks out that edge. Even his little nose, you know, don't draw a line around it. Just picks out little shapes of dark and light. Just do the dark shapes. Even though there's an edge, you can see that edge. Don't draw it in, because it's not all there. Just part of it is. Let me just show you what to do with your cotton swab. Mine's brand new. One side's going to be black, the other side's going to be white. You can choose one or the other, it does not matter. You can start with the white and blend it, or you can start with the black and blend it. Because the white is so bright, I think I'll just leave it. I don't know if I'm going to blend it much. I might blend the eye just a little bit to start with. While my cotton swab is nice and clean, I'm just going to bring some of this down. Just blend that a little bit, some of this down. Leaving that white part at the very bottom. If you wanted to blend a little of that too, you could. But you want it fairly precise without a lot of fuzzy edges. And that little white spot, try to avoid that. It's hard to do. And if you can't, that's fine. You can come back in, you can touch it with your kneaded eraser to bring out any black that's on the top of the white. And then just come back into it with your white, hit that highlight. Any little light areas that you think you need. Voila, there's a perfect eye. Piece of cake. And then blend anything else you want to. I've got a little bit of charcoal on that cotton swab. I can come back into it and I can blend in some grays. And you don't want to go over the whole thing. You want to just go the direction that the hair flows and just do little feathered lines, little fleck, 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 fleck. Because we want to leave out some of that light gray anyway. That is part of the paper. So you kind of are picky, really picky about what you blend and what you don't. You don't have to blend it. And just use that local charcoal that you've put in there. Like I say, don't be afraid to leave out little areas, because it's going to end up looking kind of like fur. You have light and dark areas of the fur. Isn't that fast? And really, overall, for the amount of work that we're putting into it, this is pretty easy to get some nice grays, lights and darks, high contrast, and still get those midtones. Use your cotton swab kind of like a paintbrush, where you can just kind of paint in some soft, light. Even in the, like around the ear, in the back where that hair kind of comes out, you use your cotton swab to get all that. The more you load onto your cotton swab, the easier it's going to be to get all those grays in there. And some of those, I'm taking out some of where the whiskers are. I'll have to come in with my eraser and my white charcoal later on. That's okay. I understood that. I knew that was going to happen. But the texture is worth it. I like this technique, especially for the long hair in the ears. Just, you can get it so soft. I'll show you how to do the little droplets of water too with the cotton swab. Don't try to draw those in with your pencil. It'll make them too sharp. You want that edge to be smooth and soft. Like I say, you don't have to blend everything. Just whatever you feel like you need. You think about his stripes kind of like a mirror. They're not the exact same on both sides, but they follow the same pattern. That's why we drew those circles to kind of give us that pattern. If you did one along this edge over here, you're going to do one on the same edge over here. And luckily they're different. They're not identical. They're not symmetrical. At first glance, they probably feel like it, but they're really not. Just about got the important part done, which is the head. Everything else can fudge a little bit. Because he's in the water kind of hides a few things too. When you get down to drawing the water, do these little spots in between. And you just think to yourself, okay, if that's water, I'm just going to do these little spots in between of darkness, leaving out little areas. I mean, it's almost like a random scribble. And eventually you'll kind of look at it and go, okay, I can see where the arm goes, but yet I don't see a definite edge there. So you just kind of scribble it in, leaving little shapes in and out. I'm not following it exactly. Millisecond after this picture was taken, that all changed anyway. Same thing with this other paw. There's just a few little areas of darkness. Just throw those in. Don't be afraid to leave out little spots of light for the droplets. Try to get the shapes in, and you'll have it. Piece of cake. So much of this is going to be done with the cotton swab. little spots of light over here that I'm just gonna have to throw in with the white charcoal when I'm all done. That last thing you do is just pick out some of those darks and lights, and especially the lights, that high contrast. That'll be the last thing we throw in there. Almost ready for the water. And that is going to be the easiest thing, because we're just going to simplify it. I mean, we've simplified quite a bit already of our tiger. The water we're going to simplify using our cotton swab. So what I'm going to do is just these little parts that kind of fly out here, I'm going to do those with my cotton swab. I'm just kind of looking at those shapes. I'm going to just throw some of those in. A little splash of dark and light. So I'm kind of using my scrap as inspiration. I'm not really following it exactly. Hopefully this is starting to make sense to you, and look how fast it is. I mean, a drawing that you thought this is really complex or really hard to do, we've simplified it into just shapes of dark and light. And if you're drawing along and you've exhausted your cotton swab, just take a piece of tracing paper and scribble on some charcoal and use that. But there's lots of places you can go back into. Pick up some charcoal. Just move it over to where you want it. Or add more to it. I mean, you can always come back, add a little bit more to this and that. Scribbly areas. I have no idea what that paw looks like because it's cut off on our page. But I'd imagine there's just little areas of dark and light. It would probably be similar to this one. So I'm just going to throw that in as if he's, running in the water. It's almost emotional to just kind of feel that water kind of coming away. Just putting in some little dots and just kind of spontaneous, fun. Now, there's probably plenty more that you could do, but we've allotted ourselves a little bit more than an hour to practice and work on this. So now I'm going to just take my white charcoal in there. I can pick out little spots of light in the water and just do these little swirly kind of zigzaggy shapes just here and there. You can pull things out with your kneaded eraser if you want to, like some of these little spots that I thought, oh, those needed to be a little lighter. Add a little lighter edge to them with your white charcoal. Last but not least, the last thing you do is just touch up light and dark. Whatever you need. Little hair every now and then. You just put a little line in there to just increase that little contrast there, that little shape. Little hairs on his back that just pick up a little bit of the light, probably because they're wet and they're kind of glossy. And do a few of those. Don't need a lot. Last thing you're going to do is sign it. Make sure you sign it in a spot that is not obtrusive, not, you know, someplace that causes too much attention to itself. Because your composition, your signature is part of that composition. For me, you do it right under this paw, or right under this little shoulder over there. It's up to you, but don't put it right on the edge, because some of these are so nice. You're going to want to you want to frame them. Your frame will cover it up. thanks for coming and drawing with me today. And hopefully your day is going to go very well because you start drawing with it. And hope you have a lovely day, because art makes life better.